My wife blamed my mother for our daughter's death. She made me choose, divorce her or disown my mom. I was broken. Around a year ago, our 2-year-old daughter drowned in my mother's pool because she was left unattended by her for exactly 2 minutes according to the security camera. The reason she left is because the fire alarm went off inside the house, so she quickly went inside to check for a fire, but my daughter was unresponsive in the pool when she came back after she realized it's a false alarm. She had crawled in while my mother was gone. My mother tried CPR and couldn't save her. Also worth mentioning, she lives really rurally and it took 30 minutes for EMS to show up. Since then my mother has been super depressed and attempted suicide 3 times. I must mention that entire incident was documented on security cameras, so we are sure this is actually what happened. My mother had also raised 3 children, fostered many more, and babysat my nieces without any problem, so there was no doubt about her competence. Me and my wife were both devastated, but we're slowly doing better. We recently started grief therapy, and she mentioned that one of the things that would make her feel better was if I cut all contact with my mother. I refused because I don't think she should be cut off for an unfortunate accident that she obviously feels very bad for. I must also mention that my wife has understandably not interacted with my mother in any way since the day my daughter died, and I fully support her in doing so if it makes her feel better, and I never pushed or asked her to resume contact with my mom, and I'm okay with it if she never does. However, she wants me to join her in NC with my mom and feels betrayed that I haven't, and has been mentioning it over and over again. Things came to a head last night when she saw me shopping for a birthday gift for my mom. She again demanded I cut her off, and I again refused and explained why, despite understanding her hurt and validating her feelings. She told me that she can't stay with me if I betray my wife and child by keeping contact with someone who was responsible for her and failed her, and she threatened to file for divorce, saying it's either her or my mom. I tried reasoning with her and sympathizing, but I held my boundary of not cutting my mom off, and the night ended with her packing a bag and leaving for a hotel. I really don't want to get a divorce. As much as I disagree with her, I understand where she is coming from, and that the hurt is still raw. But I also don't want to cut off my mother. From my POV as well as the POV of the law, she didn't do anything wrong, and was also the victim of a traumatizing accident. I also fear if she will attempt suicide again if she loses a part of her support system, and the part of family that she lives the closest to. Am I the asshole for not cutting off my mom? Comment 1. Nurse. Grandparents left the baby in a hot car. Each thought the other had him. It was a church picnic. Baby died next day. Crying face. Comment 2. I don't see your marriage surviving this. Your mother will always be a trigger for your wife and a reminder that she's the reason her child isn't here. Losing a child is not something that you ever recover from. Comment 3. Agreed, my mom lost her oldest son 50 years ago. It affected her until the Alzheimer's got bad. The only good thing about Alzheimer's is the painful stuff she's forgotten. Comment 4. My husband worked in a nursing home. The staff lie though their teeth, they sent a message they're running late and will be here in an hour, whenever someone was waiting for a dead family member. White lies, of course, they have no interest in causing extra distress. Comment 5. My grandpa had a moment of lucidity during my grandma's funeral. What happened? Was awful. Comment 6. My grandma had the same thing. She kept asking where my grandfather, her husband of 62 years, was. Right up until the funeral, which was delayed by 2 days so that I could get there from across the country. He was my best friend. At the funeral, just the immediate family was allowed to see him before the closed casket service. My mom, grandma, and I stood over him saying our goodbyes. In a moment of complete clarity, already several years into dementia, my grandma reached out her hand, touched his heart, and said quietly, "You were my one true love." It's been 11 years and I think about this every day. Comment 7. I used to work in a retirement home and did the same thing. I had a resident named Max who adored her husband. He died in the war long before I ever met her. But she talked about him like they were newlyweds. She always asked where he'd run off to, and I'd lie and say he ran out to put gas in her car, or he was picking up groceries, things of that nature. They were lies, but they made her happy. Until the nastiest nurse I've ever met snapped at her that her husband was dead, and never coming back, so just quit fucking asking, you overgrown baby. Max didn't remember a lot of things. But she remembered that. She stopped coming to mealtimes after that. Stopped socializing. Just sadly clutched her husband's photo to her chest and stared out the windows. She died a few months later. To this day, I strongly believe that nurse and her behavior killed Max via a broken heart. I quit not long after she passed. Those lies are so very important. Let them believe that their loved one is on an errand. It doesn't hurt anything. There's no reason to make them remember their grief. Forgetting the painful things is one of the only small mercies dementia gives a person. Let them have that much. Edit. I did report the nurse, as did several other employees. Despite this and several other incidents involving this nurse, she never faced any actual consequences. The nurse was told to watch a sensitivity training video and that was about it.